Ethiopia's National Electoral Board Chairperson Melata Halo has described the country's latest election as successful, despite setbacks linked to security concerns. Speaking in Addis Ababa on Tuesday, Halo acknowledged reports of misconduct, saying officials found guilty were dismissed and legal action will follow. She noted that security officers disguised in civilian clothing were also removed from polling stations to ensure fairness, while 46 constituencies were excluded due to conflict, including all of Tigray. More than 40 million Ethiopians cast their ballots nationwide. Out of over 50,000 polling stations, only 143 were unable to operate. Voters elected 500 members of parliament, along with regional and city council representatives. Under Ethiopia's parliamentary system, the majority party will select the prime minister, with incumbent Abiy Ahmed's Prosperity Party seeking to extend its rule. Benin President Romuald Wadagny arrived in Niamey on Tuesday, marking the first presidential visit from his country since Niger's 2023 coup. Niger's leader Abdourahamane Tiani welcomed Wadagny at the airport, with flags of both nations lining the capital cities. Beninese residents in Niamey expressed joy, calling the visit a long-awaited step toward reopening the border and normalizing relations. The two neighbors saw ties collapse after Niger's military takeover in July 2023, which led to border closures and strained diplomacy. But last month, Niger's Prime Minister attended Wadagny's swearing-in ceremony in Benin, raising hopes of a reset. Tuesday's visit is seen as a symbolic move to thaw relations and rebuild trust between the West African countries. The United Nations World Food Programme has intensified support for communities hit by the Ebola outbreak in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. WFP coordinator Sip Olo said the agency mobilized from the start, working with the WHO and the DRC government to deliver food and medical supplies to areas with the highest transmission. He warned the epidemic is not only a health crisis, but also threatens livelihoods, farming, and nutrition for millions already displaced in Ituri. Olo urged greater international solidarity, stressing that resources are needed both to contain the outbreak and to strengthen the region's health system and economy. The outbreak was declared May 15, with WHO naming it a public health emergency 2 days later. Authorities report over 1,000 suspected cases, 125 confirmed, and at least 246 suspected deaths in the DRC, alongside 9 cases and 1 death in Uganda. Senegal's Prime Minister Ahmadou Amin Lo unveiled a new government Monday, less than 2 weeks after President Bassirou Diomaye Faye dismissed former Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko and dissolved his cabinet. The reshuffled administration includes 30 ministers, with key portfolios consolidated. Finance Chief State Duma retains his post as Dakar continues talks with the IMF. Lo announced the merger of the Finance and Economy Ministries, stressing institutional consistency as the guiding principle. Meanwhile, Sonko confirmed his Pastef party will not join the new government. He has instead been elected Speaker of the National Assembly, giving him a powerful platform to challenge Faye's agenda. Analysts warn of possible institutional deadlock as Senegal faces a debt crisis and stalled IMF negotiations. Hundreds of demonstrators joined a solidarity rally in Lagos on Tuesday, demanding the release of 29 students and 7 teachers abducted in Ogbomoso, Oyo State. Organized by the Nigeria Union of Teachers, protesters marched with banners reading, "The chalk must speak louder than the gun," and "Kidnapping has no place in education." They later gathered outside the Lagos State House of Assembly under heavy security. Union leaders condemned the killings and abductions, urging government action to secure the victims' release. Activists also called for scholarships and compensation for affected families. The mass abduction on May 15 involved 39 school children and 7 staff members, highlighting Nigeria's growing school kidnapping crisis. UNICEF reports only 37% of schools nationwide have early warning systems, leaving many vulnerable to armed groups. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has called for stricter enforcement of immigration laws, warning that illegal migration is putting pressure on public services. In a national address Tuesday, Ramaphosa said migration can benefit the economy if properly managed, but stressed the need to crack down on violations. He announced tougher workplace inspections, prosecutions of employers hiring undocumented workers, stronger border security, and closing loopholes in immigration laws. At the same time, Ramaphosa cautioned against xenophobia and vigilantism, urging South Africans not to let enforcement fuel discrimination or violence. According to official estimates, foreign-born residents make up between 3 and 5% of the population, with Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Lesotho among the main countries of origin. Russia's State Duma hosted its annual expert council on African roundtable in late May, with lawmakers and diplomats focusing on food security across the continent. Chaired by Deputy Speaker Alexander Babakov, the session outlined a roadmap to strengthen Russian-African cooperation, including closed-loop agricultural technologies and bioeconomy projects. Foreign Ministry official Tatiana Dovgalenko stressed the humanitarian dimension, noting that hunger continues to rise, especially in 10 countries, 4 of them in Africa. Russia highlighted its ongoing food aid to nations such as Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Mali, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe, framing this as part of its broader grain diplomacy and outreach to African partners. Officials also warned that rising energy and fertilizer costs, driven by global tensions, are worsening Africa's food crisis. Recommendations from the roundtable will be forwarded to the Russian government to deepen cooperation with African states. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has urged the United States ambassador to respect her country's internal political affairs. Speaking Tuesday, Sheinbaum said Mexico's matters belong to Mexicans, stressing that cooperation with Washington on security and organized crime must be based on mutual respect and sovereignty. Her remarks followed comments by Ambassador Rona Johnson, who suggested Mexico was politicizing the fight against cartels, calling it a missed opportunity for bilateral cooperation. Sheinbaum accused the U.S. of interference, but reaffirmed Mexico's willingness to work together on cross-border challenges, provided national independence is upheld. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps says it struck back after a U.S. attack on an oil tanker near the Strait of Hormuz late Tuesday. State television reported missiles targeted the American vessel Panaya, while drones and rockets hit U.S. bases in the region, including the Fifth Fleet headquarters. Kuwait Army claimed drones damaged its international airport, though U.S. Central Command denied this, saying missiles aimed at Kuwait and Bahrain were intercepted or fell short. The escalation comes as Washington and Tehran struggle over nuclear deal talks. U.S. media say President Trump has asked for changes to the framework, while Iran accuses Washington of shifting demands. A massive fire tore through central Jakarta overnight Monday, engulfing Jung Kemayoran Market and nearby housing. Footage showed flames and thick smoke spreading rapidly as emergency crews battled the blaze. Residents described fleeing with nothing as rented homes and belongings were destroyed. Jakarta's Fire and Rescue Agency confirmed the operation began at 9:05 p.m. and was contained by 4:15 a.m. Tuesday, with 35 units and 175 personnel deployed. Hundreds of people have been displaced, while several injured were rushed to hospitals. Authorities have yet to confirm fatalities, but cooling operations and damage assessments are ongoing. French President Emmanuel Macron hosted Rwandan President Paul Kagame in Paris on Tuesday for the inauguration of l'Archive, a permanent memorial dedicated to victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Footage showed Macron and First Lady Brigitte Macron welcoming Kagame and Rwanda's First Lady Jeannette Kagame at the Élysée Palace before the ceremony. The memorial marks a new chapter in relations between France and Rwanda, strained for decades over France's role during the genocide. A 2021 commission concluded Paris bore heavy and overwhelming responsibilities for failing to prevent the slaughter, though found no evidence of direct complicity. Since then, both nations have worked to rebuild ties, focusing on security cooperation in the Great Lakes region. Macron hailed the memorial as the culmination of a long and patient quest for truth, describing the reconciliation as unprecedented.